children's emergency room once again, but this time around I caught his work of breathing in the afternoon, and so I literally called right after the hospital closed to get the pulmonologist on call so that it wouldn't be a late night drive out there, and maybe we'll get to come home at a reasonable time. We'll see. Okay, I don't know if you can hear me or if the road noise is too loud, but I thought since I've got a good 45 minutes to an hour of driving that I would just kind of update you guys. It's been a long time since I've vlogged. That's for a few reasons. A big one is that everything, the world just kind of changed completely because of COVID. In a lot of ways, it didn't affect us too much, but once it changed school and things like that, it just became too much on top of trying to keep up with our business and our recipe channel, the main Eating Richly channel, which does bring in income, and then, doing school with the kids at home and all of Arden's medical stuff. It was just too much to try and keep vlogging. And I also had just a lot of videos that I had filmed before the pandemic and shut down, like snow tubing at Snoqualmie for the first time with the kids, that my heart just wasn't in editing because the world was so different. And I will want to go back and do that. It was a really fun video. But I also know it'll be bittersweet seeing that and wondering that, if and when that will be normal again. I think there's some things that are the new normal. Like today we had a doctor's appointment that was basically just a consultation. Like there didn't need to be vitals. And even if there did, we could have done all of those vitals at home. And it was more of a discussion appointment about what's next and making plans. It took 20 minutes out of my work day. We just video chatted with the doctor, came up with a plan, felt really good about it. And it took 20 minutes instead of the 2 hours that it would normally take, and we would normally bring our child with us and then have to try and keep them entertained because they don't really need to be there for the appointment. So stuff like that, I hope this is actually the new normal, but there are definitely other things that I miss and wonder about. So as far as Arden's health goes, had his surgery to remove his tonsils and his adenoids and to put in his feeding tube. This happened kind of right after the first shutdown. I actually filmed vlog stuff for that. I'm not sure. If I did, I will put it in this video for you. Alright, it took a while, but we are checked in. We're waiting for the nurses to come and get us for surgery. Arden's very snuggly, which is good because mommy needs that right now. We have gone through all of our pre-op vitals and cleaning. He's got his cute hospital dress. I know it's a gown. And soon the doctors will be in. And then anesthesia. And then Mama will say bye-bye. Go. Arden's got a med through his tube to help get him relaxed. And a little sleepy. Yeah. And he started out super talkative and hyper, and now he's relaxing. I had planned to eat breakfast breakfast, do a little work, spend some time relaxing in the garden, but I kept getting called back to the surgical desk to talk with the surgeons on the phone. They were really shocked at how much Arden's tonsils and adenoids closed off his airway when he was asleep versus when he's awake. This didn't surprise me that much because I have a family history of major tonsil and adenoid issues. So I gave the okay to remove his tonsils and adenoids, also knowing that it would mean possibly a little bit of a longer hospital stay. This was our first time in a shared room because every other hospitalization, Arden had a virus, so we were in isolation. The pulmonologist also told me that there was quite a bit more inflammation and secretions in Arden's lungs than he was expecting to see, and that Arden is able to collapse some of his airways when he exhales. Is that you? It's 9:15 at night and he is finally calm enough and feeling good enough to sleep on his own in bed, which is amazing because I have been stuck in that chair for 5 hours. No, way more than that. Like, I guess 10 hours. It was a long night, but somehow I made it through. He was a little more alert the next day, doing this weird thing with his head. The doctor thought maybe he was just kind of feeling how his throat felt different, or maybe it was something to do with the pain medication making him feel different. Poor guy got a nosebleed from them suctioning out secretions so he could breathe. But while he took a nap, I ate a meal I brought from home. And then he was definitely just still struggling to breathe and working really hard. So I knew we were staying at least one more night. Section. Yeah, good job. More? What do you want more of? More? Hi. Say, we're coming home. Hi. See you soon. So once Arden was all recovered from his surgery, he actually did really amazing. We had a good solid 3 or 4 months where he wasn't even needing oxygen for sleep, and he didn't have any work of breathing issues, and we didn't have to take him into the emergency room or urgent care or any issues we had were just strictly related to the feeding tube and just figuring out, is this a normal rash? Is this a bad rash? And stuff that we could email pictures back and forth. So Arden was doing really well, and we got the green light from his doctors to go ahead and do our annual family vacation with Eric's family, which is an amazing beach trip. We rent out, Eric's dad, thank you, such a blessing, rents out a beach house every year at the same spot. We all look forward to it the whole year, especially the kids. And so we just had to make sure that everyone else was healthy and taking really good social distancing precautions leading up to the trip so that it would be safe for us to all be in a house together, with Arden being so high risk. And I'm so thankful that we got to do that. But while we were there, I had a phone appointment with Arden's nutrition specialist because he hadn't gained weight for several months. We ended up increasing how much formula he was getting through his tube daily. Right that night, he started having desats where his oxygen levels were dropping while he was sleeping. And because he hadn't needed oxygen for months, we totally forgot to bring a backup oxygen tank with us in case something like this happened. Thankfully, it was the last night of the trip, so I basically just didn't sleep much that night and just kind of aroused him a little bit whenever he would desat to make sure he stayed at 90 or above. Speaking of, he's at 92 right now. It's not great, but we'll take it. So over the next few days, we were needing to have him on oxygen for sleep, and he also had increased work of breathing. But we had a big appointment for him on that Monday with his aerodigestive team. So that's everybody. That is nutrition and feeding therapy and pulmonology and ENT. Basically everyone needed to assess him and brainstorm and come up with a plan. And so I figured, I wouldn't worry about it and we would just run it by the team when we saw them on Monday. Well, they were actually really concerned and told us to go right to the emergency room after his appointment. Thankfully, we've managed to avoid any hospitalizations, but we have had a lot of emergency room visits and I think a couple of urgent care visits too. And then also just a lot of phone calls at night with the on-call pulmonologist. Basically, there's a few things that we figured out. One thing we figured out is that he was not tolerating his feeds, and so that increase in feed just pushed him over to where he was having reflux and aspirating the reflux likely into his lungs. We had a swallow study as part of the aerodigestive appointment where they discovered that he was also aspirating on the nectar-thick liquids. So we switched to honey-thick liquids. And so slowing the rate of his feeds and switching to honey-thick liquids helped for a little while. Eventually, it just kind of worked back up and we were back in the emergency room on a weekly basis and calling in. And so finally, they put him on a steroid called prednisone, which, oh my goodness, toddler roid rage is no joke. I'm so sorry. Wow. He was taking albuterol regularly along with his Flovent, which is an inhaled steroid that's long-term. Albuterol is short-term, quick-acting emergency. They also made him NPO, which means no food or liquid by mouth. If any of you are parents and have had toddlers who put everything in their mouths, you know how ridiculous that is. I feel like it's gotten even worse that because he no longer gets to eat and drink like the rest of us, he's looking for even more things to try and eat and drink, and even being sneaky about it. Like, I have caught him stealing a pouch or an orange peel from the trash can and running down the hall with it to go eat it where we can't see, which is not good. I don't want him developing habits of trying to eat in secrecy. We're trying to figure that out, but basically, it's possible he's aspirated things into his lungs. It's hard to know. I mean, we've caught him with Play-Doh, with applesauce, with Legos, dirt, dog food, all sorts of things that he's been eating. We're headed to the emergency room because he's breathing quite a bit faster than he should be for his age, and he's got the big belly breathing where his tummy is moving in and out, pushing hard, and then he has that trach tug where you can see it sucking in right here. So they're just concerned that he might have aspirated something into his lungs, and so even though he doesn't have a fever, that might not show up for a few days. So they're probably going to want to do an x-ray. They might take some blood to check his blood gas levels to see what his oxygen levels and carbon dioxide levels are at to get an idea of how his oxygen is moving. Oh, express lanes, yay. I love the express